Okay, good morning, people. Yesterday, because of some assignment in the college and the timing of the lecture for Wednesday being a bit late, I could not schedule our lecture, and I suppose you all had some early morning assignments also. So I thought of not conducting your lecture yesterday, but okay, today we'll continue with where we had stopped last time. As far as possible, see that you get yourself joined into the classroom, Google Classroom, because if you have noticed, I've already posted the second assignment. The second assignment has two questions in that. You'll have to write an answer for both of these questions. See that you refer to the book, particularly the one that Pritham had posted us the other day, climatology, because that's a detailed book. Of course, I would frankly admit that we would not be required to go into all those details, but if you read through it and if you understand, once you understand the processes, we know that all sub-subjects of geography are interlinked to each other. So who knows, if you understand something in climatology, this would help you to understand other processes in geomorphology also. A lot of things, in fact, you'll see that as far as exogenic forces are concerned, where water is a major concern, you'll see that and rain is the major source of water on land surfaces as such. That is the linkage between climatology and geomorphology as such. Anyway, coming to, just give me a second to adjust this, and okay, I will share my screen with you all now. Just give me a few seconds. Okay, here we are. I'll pin it. Fine. So uh, you may hear a bit of disturbance in the background, basically because there is some work going on at my residence. So if you are getting that disturbance, I'm purposely using earplugs for that. But if you are getting that disturbance, you'll have to bear with me for a couple of days. This is what we were doing last time. Of course, we have spoken of a few things beyond this also. In fact, we have spoken about this inversion of temperature last time, I suppose. There are various types of inversions. We have gone into the details of those inversions. And these are a few things. These two slides are what we are supposed to be doing today. I'm going to speak about winds today as such. But before we come to the winds, what leads to the formation of winds is basically pressure belts. We have seen that you have a low pressure belt here, you have a high pressure belt here, you have a low pressure belt. मी मुद्दामच हे रिपीट का करतोय कारण हा अतिशय थोडासा किचकट, अतिशय म्हणण्यापेक्षा थोडासा किचकट भाग आहे आणि हा समजून घेणं अतिशय गरजेचं आहे असं मी म्हणेन. त्याच्यामुळे तुम्ही म्हणाल सर हे नेहमी नेहमी तुम्ही आम्हाला प्रत्येक वेळेस इंट्रोडक्शनला का सांगताय, तर it is of that importance and that's why I am repeating it as such. So this again is high pressure, this is low pressure, and then of course we are going to have this high pressures as such. I purposely selected this diagram. You might be remembering that we have seen this in an earlier lecture, which could have been a couple of months ago as such. But I've selected this basically because I have the Devanagari script. It's written in Marathi as well as in English. So it is these low pressure belts that from the equator, the ITCZ, which is called to be the engine which runs this system, the whole system, and most importantly, the shifting of pressure belts, where the pressure belts move north and south, and we have seen that also as such. Okay, all this is available in around the pages numbered. Now, what we are going to do today, winds and the factors affecting winds, can be found on page number 84 onwards in climatology by Savindra Singh as such. Of course, this is available in Lewtons and Turbuck. I would say that the diagrams could be taken from there. and the text material could be taken from here when it comes to making of notes. As we'll see that it is this low high alternating high and low pressure belts, which happens because of many reasons that we have said. Just a moment. Hello. Yes. Yes, please. Faster. काय? अहो माझं लेक्चर चालू आहे. Sorry about that. There was some marketing call from LIC. I don't know what these people are up to. Anyway, so you'll see that what happens here is I'll just change the ink of my pointer. In color, let us make it yellow. So what is happening here is I would like you all to concentrate on this diagram here. Because of the alternating pressure belts, low and high, okay, the low pressure is going to make these things move up here. When they go up, all this we have done, but just a repetition and revision of them as such. When they go up here into the tropopause, near the tropopause, they get cooled, and of course then they are going to come down here. Okay, as particles are going to be given out from here, there is going to be a suction into this particular point, and basically that is the aspect about low pressure, that things are going to move up from here, and horizontally they are going to be sucked into that particular area. So you'll see that they are going to move like this, and while they move, they are going to get warmer and warmer, and by the time they get considerably warm, they will start moving up in this particular direction. And a similar but an opposite thing happens near the poles, wherein the heavier, the colder particles are going to come down to the surface like this, and they are going to be मगाशी म्हटलं की एखाद्या गव्हाची रास किंवा तांदळाची रास ओतावी तसे ते particles, they are going to move away from the pole, and as they come down, they're going to get heavier, but they still stay to be they're going to get warmer and lighter, however, correction, but however they still stay to be heavier than and colder than the particles which come from here, and that is why the warm thing comes up here. And the cyclone, okay, these are temperate cyclones, please remember. Near the tropics you're going to have tropical cyclones, but here you're going to have temperate cyclones, and it is this. Okay, we have spoken about this in the form of fronts. Inversion मध्ये आपण fronts बद्दल बोललेलो आहे. We are going to do the polar front theory towards the latter part of the syllabus. That is what I mean when I say that a lot of things are revisited from different angles when we speak about the various topics in climatology as such. Now all this, okay, this we said is thermally direct. This is thermally direct because this is related to temperature. This is high temperature, and this is high temperature. This is low temperature. The central one, okay, the ferrule cell as it is called, is basically a dynamic one. Okay, because there is a pushing and subsiding and other things happen, you'll see that it results in between the two thermally direct cells as such. Now, because of all this happening, okay, if you remember, I did spoke about this, that the whole cell has to be looked into multiple aspects. I'm going to come to that. I want you all to have a broad picture, and then I'm going to go into the process as such. All this leads to generation of what are called as winds. Okay, and in this diagram now, the second diagram, you will see there are two or three types of winds. You're going to have northeasterly trade winds. Northeasterly means north and east. Okay, so northeasterly trade winds, and these obviously are going to be southwesterly trade winds. Both of them are the same type. The formation is because of that. Then here you're going to have the westerlies. Okay, you would have westerlies, and in the polar region, you're going to have the polar easterlies as such. Okay, they are called as the polar easterlies. There is a fantastic explanation to this. Let me see if I am, normally when I'm in the classroom, I explain it in a different way. Let me see if I am successful. I would be successful to explain you how polar easterlies blow on an online mode as such. Anyway, with these basics, let us come down to a few things that I wanted to explain to you on a different platform as such. I'll move to the black color, and okay, let us some disturbance on the well. Now, all this that has been seen, okay, I purposely showed it to you all because I'm going to bring you to a different scenario. As such, I'm going to bring you to convection. What happens in convection? If you're going to have high temperature at a particular point, okay, you'll see that particles are going to move up, okay, and then sideways when they cool down, and they're going to come down, and then they're going to move like this way. So this completes the convective cell as such. Now, if I'm going to apply this convection to the atmosphere, okay, this is where the low pressure is going to be. This is where the high pressure is going to be. This is where the upper air arm of the circulation is. Now you'll see that of late, you'll see that this aspect is also being considered and being studied very intensively. But for this to come into our textbooks, it may take a few years as such. But let me tell you that when it comes to monsoon forecasting, etc., this arm of this convective cell is being considered nowadays. But as far as our textbooks are concerned, we are referring to one arm, two arm, and this is the third arm. And this is what we are going to speak about today more intensively as such. What is this happening? You'll see that here in number one, things are moving vertically up. In number two, things are going to move vertically down. Okay, so this is going to be low pressure. This is going to be high pressure. HIGH. Okay, now what happens in number three is actually a movement sideways. Now what happens? What is the importance of this sideways movement? Okay, you'll see that in any of these positions, if you have an individual standing, okay, number one will go parallel, no feeling. Number two will go parallel, no feeling. But number three will cross you. And then you'll feel that something is moving across you. This feeling is actually considered as wind. Of course, directly it is not going to be considered as. When it is going to be gentle, आपण ह्याला ब्रीज म्हणतो, वाऱ्याची झुळूक म्हणतो ना आपण, व्हेरी लाईट. When this gets stronger, we are going to call this as wind. When this gets further stronger, we are going to call this as a storm. More stronger, may call it as a cyclone. So this is how the horizontal movement is going to be called. See, and that is why understanding basics in climatology is very, very necessary. The thing is the same. Only that when it is gentle, you're calling it breeze. When it gets faster, you call it wind. When it gets more faster, you get it storm. And then it gets very fast, you are going to call it as a cyclone as such. The question is that how and what are going to be the factors which are going to be affecting for a particular movement of air particles horizontally. Particular movement of particles horizontally. What are the factors going to affect this movement as such? Okay, and before we actually go into identifying these winds as such, we need to understand that. Before that, I did speak about this earlier, but then let me just refer to it and we'll mention it here as such. The primary type of winds are called as global winds. आपण आत्ता जी पाहिली होती की easterlies, westerlies, polar easterlies, all these are global. Now, why are they called as global? Because they blow throughout the globe, of course, along a particular sector, but then you'll find them blowing throughout the year. So these are yearly. Okay. Now you'll see that some winds are going to blow according to the season. Okay, these are called as seasonal. Sorry about the spelling. Seasonal winds, and they will grow half yearly. They are going to grow half yearly. Okay, and example is monsoon. हे पण आपण आधी एकदा केलेलं आहे. ज्यांनी जे त्या लेक्चरला नसतील त्यांच्यासाठी हे नवीन असेल, बाकीच्यांसाठी ही रिव्हिजन असू शकेल. And then you have the third type of winds, which are called as local winds. Okay, these are diurnal. दिवसाकाठी ह्याच्यामध्ये बदल होत असतो. हा 6 महिन्याला डायरेक्शन मध्ये बदल. And yearly, sorry, there is no change in the direction of these winds. These keep on blowing in from a particular direction. Seasonal winds will change their directions according to the summer season or the winter season. And local winds will change it daily. During daytime and nighttime, they will change. You'll see that we referred to many of these local winds when we were referring to inversion of temperature in the earlier lectures. The classification of wind is this, and let me tell you that because this is local, it does not mean that this is not important, and because this is global, it does not mean that it is very, very important as such. All of them are equally important, let me say, and understanding all of them becomes equally important as such. Now, coming back to the fact that we are calling the horizontal displacement in any direction, horizontal displacement of air particles or atmospheric particles to be called as winds. Let us not call it as a breeze, let us not call it as a storm, we'll keep it as winds as such. But all this winds is, remember, winds is what? This is the square, this is the sail. Okay, this is the complete atmospheric circulation, and wind is only this part of it. Okay, so whatever is going to happen to these winds is going to be dependent on atmospheric circulation. So even though we may have come out of atmospheric circulation, when we understand winds, we have to keep in mind that this is one arm of that cycle that is completed by the um atmospheric circulation. Now, we spoke about things moving from breeze to wind to a storm to a cyclone and so on and so forth. This is basically because of what we call as a gradient. Now, what is gradient? You must have studied this in geomorphology, because there is where you can easily understand what gradient means. It is basically the slope between the highest point and the lowest point. Okay, and of course, what is this called? The vertical difference between the A and B is going to be called as what? You must in geomorphology you must have done this. What is this called as? This is called as relief of that particular area. Now, instead of all this, let us imagine that this is a seesaw. Ghasargundi asti na? Okay, or a slide. Ghasargundia. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the angle of this seesaw. This is the ground level. This is one. Then I would say this is another one. B dash, A dash. ही एक घसरगुंडी आहे आणि ही एक घसरगुंडी आहे. A double dash, B double dash. Let us take another one. A3, B3. Now, which of these is going to be fastest? If I'm going to ride on this, I will be coming down very, very fast. If I'm going to use this, I may in fact require to push myself, because this is very, very gentle. Okay. Now, if we are imagining the same slope, now gradient is also called as, we can now understand it as slope. What is the slope of this particular thing as such? Now let us come up with a more fair diagram as such. Y-axis and x-axis as such. We are going to have gradient number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Let us say that we are going to place something in the sense, let us say we are going to place basketball also, volleyball also, football also. We are going to place them here as such. What do you think is going to happen as far as the movement is concerned? This is going to be very slow, or rather I would say slowest, and this is going to be fastest. Okay. A similar thing when happens between, this is going to be low pressure point, and these are going to be high pressure points. When air particles from high pressure are going to be moving to low pressure as such, okay, depending on the gradient that they have between them, okay, these particles will move very fast. So this is going to be your storm. This is going to be your wind. And this is going to be your breeze. वाऱ्याची झुळूक, साधं वारं, आणि नंतर त्याचा निर्माण होणारा वादळामधलं रूपांतर जे आहे की this is this. Now, how should this happen? This will happen as to how far these places are from each other. The origin, the point of high pressure and low pressure as such. Okay, we will just see now how will this gradient change. This gradient will change in the fact that what are the values between this. Now, if the value is 1000 high pressure, that's hectopascal, चला आपण किंवा आपण मिलीबार म्हणूयात, तुमच्या मिलीबार, and let us say at one point it is 1000, and the low pressure is 990 as such. What is the difference between them? This is just 10 uh, millibars as such. Okay, so it could possibly be very gently as such. Now there is going to be one rider to this, but I'll come to that later. But instead of that, somewhere the pressure starts dropping and dropping. Now when will the pressure drop? Just see how this is going to translate into a cyclone. The pressure is related to, or low pressure is related to, warm temperatures. So if the day is going to be very, very hot, the surface is going to be heated and air particles are going to move faster up. Because it moves faster, it is going to be low pressure, and this low pressure could fall down to, let us say, 900. आता हे सगळं hypothetical आहे. Okay, now if it falls to 900, you'll see that immediately the difference between the 2 points has gone up to 100 millibars. So the gradient here is gentle, the gradient here is severe. So in this case, there is a possibility of a cyclone. While in this place, there is a possibility of a gentle breeze. Now, it is also very important to note the spatial aspect. Geography मध्ये space and time. Time ला काय म्हणतो आपण? Temporal. Spatial aspect. Now, if I have the same two values, let me say I have 990 at one point and I have 1000 at the other. Now, if these 2 points, हे सुद्धा लक्षात घेण्याचं आहे, कारण there are so many combinations that come up when we are effectively speaking about these, the gradient or the slope as such. When this is separated by, let us say, a few meters only, let us say only 100 meters. If it is separated by 100 meters, the gradient is going to be steep. But if this is going to be separated by 10 kilometers, the gradient is going to be gentle. So it is not only going to be the gradient in values, it is also going to be the gradient in the form of the distance, the space between these two as such. And that is why you'll see that gradient, pressure gradient, okay, you'll see is one of the most important things when we speak about the winds. Okay, that is the first and the primary factor as such. Now, remember that normally, because the earth is round as such, okay, you'll see that when we speak about pressure cells as such, okay, you'll see that you will have pressure pockets like this. You may have low pressure in the center and the pressure belts will move like that. And then you may have high pressure and it is like this. At a local area, when there is a change, these things could happen. But if you remember, we have seen this. Okay, you'll see that if the temperature curves are like this, the pressures also could be like this. And in fact, you'll see that we have seen them here as such. You'll see that the pressure belts are this way. They are horizontal as such. Okay, of course, this is also hypothetical, but then you have to remember that. So pressure belts are going to be of, or pressure patterns are going to be of various types. They could be parallel to each other, or they could be circular as such. When it is, when you have a low pressure, this is called as a cyclone. And you'll see that wind is going to move. Of course, this will depend on whether you are in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. This is the clockwise movement. घड्याळाच्या काट्या बरोबर म्हणजे clockwise. And this is an anticyclone. Okay, wherein things are going to move out of high pressure as such. So this is what may be happening along the equator, not absolutely, but and this is going to happen in the mid latitudes. Okay, now as far as these parallel lines are concerned, it depends where you are going to have high pressure. Let us say we have high pressure here and we have low pressure here. As I said, depending on the distance, spatial distance, याच्यामध्ये किती आहे आणि value difference किती आहे, value difference किती आहे, you'll see that that will create what is going to be called as a gradient. Steeper the gradient, faster the flow, gentler the gradients, slower the flow as such. This is something that we have to keep in mind. So gradient is something very primary which controls the movement of wind particles. It starts with pressure and it affects in wind particles. As I said, we are human beings because we live on land. It is this arm of this cell which is important to us, and that is what we have to remember here as such. Then coming to the next aspect as such. Now, this would have been the ultimate and the controlling factor. This would have been the ultimate and controlling factor if the earth would have been flat. But we all know that the earth is not flat. The earth, we all know, is the shape is called as a geoid. This is a specially coined term for explaining the shape of the earth. Okay, because there were a lot of confusion. You'll see that during school times we say that the earth is like a ball. Then as we grow into higher classes, they say no, it's not an absolute, but then it is something like a pear, an orange, you could say, wherein it flattened at the poles and bulging at the equator, stuff like that. And eventually, then there are various ways of mentioning it geometrically, oblate, etc., etc. But eventually, it is the shape of the earth. This is basically the solid earth. Okay, how the earth looks after you withdraw all the water, all the solid mass of the earth is called as the geoid. Okay, this is again something that you can keep in mind as such. But eventually, okay, it is not the geoid, but this geoid has a lot of water on it also. So eventually, the earth looks like this. Okay, and there is a curvature. आता त्या दिवशी आपण थोडस 3 dimensional मध्ये बोलत होतो. You have to give, this is a circle. How do you bring the dimensional effect to a circle? Again, as I said, you have to imagine things happening around you. Okay, so what you can do is you can flip it like this, and then you can draw like this. Something which was looking a circle just a few moments ago now starts looking as a sphere now as such. Anyway, so we'll come to the shape of the earth. Now, it is not only the shape of the earth. Okay, remember that it is rotating also. Okay, from west to east. And the third factor that we have to always keep in mind is that it is a tilt. It is at a tilt. What is this tilt? 23.5 degrees. Okay, this tilt is to the horizontal. Okay, so this could be the axis, and this angle to the, sorry, not the horizontal, the vertical. This is going to be 23.5. The axis to the horizontal, let us say if this is the horizontal, this is 66.5. Now 23.5 plus 66.5. Moving from, but in this process, what has happened? The shape of the earth, which is circular, the rotating of the earth, okay, west to east, and the tilt, which is 23.5 degrees, are going to major role. And it is this major role which is going to make an impact, and it is that impact which is studied as, called as Coriolis force. Let me not spell it wrong. This is Coriolis force. This comes out of the research by, okay, but impact was explained by Coriolis, and that is why it is called as the Coriolis force. A very surprising thing about the Coriolis force is that it is not at all a force at all. It is not at all a force and not at all. If you remember, we saw those clips on YouTube, and I have pasted them in on the slide also. You can revisit it also as such. I'll just try to explain it to you in a simple way as to how does the Coriolis force effect. Okay, let us say this is the equator. These are points A and this is point B. I'll not take it farther, basically, because the Coriolis force keeps acting in smaller distances on the surface of the Earth as such. Now, if this is going to be continuing, because I said rotation is an important aspect as such. Now, if I am going to set off something from here, say, let us say I'm speaking about a missile, or let us say I'm throwing a ball from point A to point B. Now, if remember the ball throwing and the four people who were sitting on the merry-go-round on the national clip that we saw on YouTube, okay, see that they were throwing. Now, when I throw this, okay, to this particular point, okay, this is going to take some time. Now, by that time, what happens is that this and this particle, they move ahead. They move ahead. As a consequence, you'll see that by after some time, though you have thrown straight, though you have thrown this straight, okay, you'll see that particle point B has shifted into this particular point. What you feel is actually and you'll see that by that time A also has moved to this. So after 10 minutes, let us say, for example, A has come here, B has come here, but you had started from here and you had thrown it in the straight direction. But if you are, say, viewing this, okay, if you remember, they gave us two conditions, that you are a part of this system, and secondly, you are looking at this system. The camera is from the top as such. Okay, if the camera is from the top, after 10 minutes, you'll see it started from here, but B is here. So eventually, it started from here and it moved here. So the deflection, what is this deflective? These are called as deflective forces. Because there is a movement, you call them as force, but we now know that there is no force. It is basically the movement which causes all this to happen. And in fact, you'll see that the tilt in the axis also is seen to be very interesting, in the sense that Coriolis force at the equator and what is the Coriolis force at the poles, and so on and so forth. As such. Now, as far as these deflections are concerned, before that, I'll just refer to a few lines in that particular in this particular book, and if required, I will translate them in Marathi as well. The characteristic features of Coriolis effects may be summarized as मी मगाशी सांगितलं तसं. Coriolis force is not a force in itself. It is rather an effect because of rotational movement of the Earth. Secondly, Coriolis force becomes effective on a body motion. Okay, this is something I missed. Okay, for Coriolis force to come into action, the body has to move. If I'm going to stay still, okay, you'll see that the Coriolis force will not act on me. So it becomes effective on an object with motion only. So as I said, you're throwing a ball one latitude to the other, or you are launching a missile from one country to the other. All this needs to be taken into consideration as such. Then the Coriolis affects the wind directions, not the wind speed. Okay, the speed is not affected. The direction is going to be affected. It will shift like this, or it will shift like this. We have seen that the easterlies, southeastern, westerly, these easterlies, and then you're going to have westerlies like this. So it is the direction that is going to be affected, and they're going to be affected. The magnitude of the Coriolis force is determined by the wind speed. If the speed is faster, it's going to be faster. Because we said that before you move, there is no Coriolis. If you move, there will be Coriolis force. If you move faster, the Coriolis force is going to be intense. So the faster you throw something, okay, more is going to be the Coriolis force on that particular surface. Okay, and then, as I said, that because of the angle of the axis, okay, you'll see that the Coriolis force is maximum at the poles, because the rotational speed is minimum there. While on the other hand, rotate along the equator is more. How more? This is going to be nearly 44,000 kilometers. The circumference along the equator is 44,000 kilometers. At the poles, it is just a point. It is going to be a few centimeters, leave aside kilometers or meters as such. So it is maximum at the poles, and it becomes zero at the equator. It always acts at right angle to horizontally moving air. Okay, so it will try to push. So if the air is going to move like this, Coriolis force is going to pull it this way. So the effective direction, therefore, is going to be curving like this. We're going to do that because there are two types of winds that we need to do. I'm going to come to that before I close the lecture for today. It blows at right angle. So if this is a high pressure, this is low pressure, and the movement starts from here to here. Okay, Coriolis force will start acting here, and while it is acting, the effect is going to be seen in nature like this. So actual, this is acting, and this is effective. हे लगेच समजणार नाही, थोडंसं फिजिक्स आहे याच्यामध्ये, सो लगेच समजत नसेल तरी काही हरकत नाही. आय विल पोस्ट शांतपणे हे पुन्हा यायचं. नाही समजलं, यू कम बॅक टू मी, I will explain it to you again. As just let me know that sir, I have understood anything. I will repeat it to you again. As the magnitude of deflection is directly proportional to the sine of the latitude. Now I will not go into this basically because this is core trigonometry, so I will not go into that. Okay, the latitude is sine. If you understand the latitude of the sine, the sine cos tan म्हणायचं आहे ना इथे. And that is why I am not going to go into the details of the trigonometry. So first force affecting winds is gradient. The force affecting this is the curvature, the rotation, and the angle. Coriolis force. And the third force which affects the wind is in fact called as, let me just clear this off for you all. It's called as friction. Actually, they act together, but we are studying them separately as such. So we'll see that if I have a smooth surface, okay, the friction to be less. But if I have a rugged surface, okay, this is going to be obstructed here, 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 here. So there is going to be a friction. So the wind is going to be picking up here, then ahead, and then here. This is called as friction as such. So the more near you are to the surface, obviously more is going to be friction. And this is going to be impacting the direction of the flow, the speed of the flow as such. Okay, how does this affect? You'll see that in case of a rugged topography, you have many particles of wind that are blowing. Okay, wind is going to cause the particles. Now, इथे friction सगळ्यात जास्त आहे, so this is going to move slower. त्याच्यापेक्षा हा थोडा फास्ट असणार, त्याच्यापेक्षा हा थोडा फास्ट असणार, त्याच्यापेक्षा हा थोडा फास्ट असणार, हा थोडा फास्ट असणार, हा थोडा फास्ट असणार, थोडा फास्ट असणार, हा थोडा फास्ट असणार. Because the friction is the least here. Okay, this is minimum here, this is maximum here. Can anyone tell me याचा effect कशामध्ये होऊ शकेल? You combine friction plus Coriolis. What will happen? If you can answer my question, this question, understood everything. Anyone who can answer the question, you have understood everything that I have been saying. Friction plus Coriolis. मी तुम्हाला Coriolis सांगितलं काय आहे? Friction सांगितलं. You imagine it on this particular diagram and tell me what is going to happen. With regards water, if you know what a gyre is, you can give me an answer to, with regards air, what will this also mean? Okay, remember movement, friction more, friction less, and that's why the speed is going to be more. What do you think is going to happen?
Is it Ekman spiral?
Yes, this is Ekman's spiral. आता हे ओशनोग्राफी मध्ये जास्त वापरलं जातं, पण थोडक्यात तुमचं कन्फ्युजन जास्त न वाढवता काय होईल, तर दिस इज गोइंग टू मूव like this, and this is going to lead to cyclonic depressions. Not exactly depression as such, but the movement, the whirlwind movement is because of this friction plus Coriolis force as such. And that's why factors are very important. Said is the variation gradient, the second one, the Coriolis force, and the third one is the frictional force as such. Because of this, because of the frictional force acting. Okay, what happens is, we have already said this. Let me clear this off, and I'll come to the next point that we need to be discussing. This is the surface. We have said that the movement here is minimum, and then it increases, and then it increases, and then it increases. There's going to be some point up in the atmosphere where is going to be equal to 0. If the friction is going to be equal to 0, okay, now lakshat gaya ki why did this happen? This happened because friction had some value x. This happened because Coriolis had some value y. And then you get what is called as xy. Now, if this is going to be 0, you are going to be left with only y, and you will see that winds at a height are going to blow without any impact of friction. These are called as geostrophic winds. Now, let me tell you, this is hypothetical, but there is an example of this also. At a height, when they are moving from one point to other, it is happening like this. But if the same thing at a height happens along a curvature, if it is going to move like this, these are going to be called as gradient winds. तर हे दोन्ही आपल्याला करायचं आहे, बट आपल्याला बाकीच आधी समजून घेणं अतिशय गरजेचं आहे. I'll come back to the geostrophic winds and gradient winds, which are an effect of this thing later. But coming back to the fact that we are supposed to be doing, you will understand that in the northern hemisphere, winds are deflected to their right, and in the southern hemisphere, they are deflected to their left. Okay, Coriolis force. Okay, so you'll see that here in this part, it is shifting to its right. This is also right, and this is also right. This is towards this is towards the left. This is also towards its left as such. Okay, all this is explained by the Ferrel's law. Okay, ही एवढी मोठी मंडळी होती, त्याच्यामुळे you'll see की you call one as the Hadley cell, as the Ferrel cell, and of course the third cell is called as the polar cell as such, because it was studied much. See that nobody has claimed his or her name to the polar cell as such. I presume you know why and how the Coriolis force affects as such, and it makes things move toward right while it moves in the sphere and to its left. So instead of having a diagram something like instead of having it from high to low like this, you'll see that it is moving like this. Instead of moving high to low like this, it is moving like this. Okay, that the direction this because I will also give you an explanation of the same thing when we meet tomorrow. That it should not get a bit heavy for you. I'm going to stop here today, and I'm going to leave you early. I'm leaving you 15 minutes early today. But before you, let me just end this and let us come to this aspect as such. If you have आज बरीच मुलं गोळा अरे वा 22 पुरा जबरदस्त. If you have any questions for me, की अमुक एक गोष्ट सर मराठीत सांगा, तर I will be happy to share with you all in Marathi as well. In the link of questions, let me just call out. Let me check the attendance. Aditya Mule, Aishwarya Limaye, Ajay Shinde, आकाश शेळके, अक्षय हरगुडे, असावरी काळे, प्राजक्ता जाधव, प्रतीक कोकडे, प्रतीक्षा पोमण घोष, रेवती शिंदे, रोहित गायकवाड, रोहित इथापे, ऋषिकेश आगलावे, शरयू ताकवणे, श्रेया चव्हाण, शुभम सातव, सुमित सुनील राठोड, and तुषार कुठोळे, उषा वसावे, वंदिता भामरे are students present. Remember, I have already posted the second assignment. You can make up your note for that. You will make an assignment out of that, and you will have to. मी मुद्दाम त्याला अजून तारीख टाकलेली नाहीये. I'm waiting for all the students to join the classroom, and while the classroom, I will start assessing your assignments as such. But in some time from now, I'm going to post you the third assignment also. त्याच्यामुळे आपापली assignment तयार करून ठेवलेली बरी. ही assignment, of course, it is going to carry some weightage as far as your internal marks are concerned. त्यापेक्षा महत्वाचं असं आहे की जेव्हा तुम्ही assignments बनवायला घ्याल, you will read through that particular topic, and while you are going to read through that, obviously you have to understand a few things in the whole issue as such. Pritam, you have raised your hand. Please let me know.
Hello. Yes, sir. Actually, my question was that we see in the global scale that most of the deserts are located in the western margins of the continents.
Yes.
So, sir, one of the reasons which I have read through in the internet is that it is because that the easterly winds that carry moisture are they lose their moisture by the time they reach the western margin, which is why the western margins are consisting of mainly deserts. So, today we discussed about pressure. We discussed about gradient.
Yes.
About the gradient of wind. So, that one of the prime factors that is
absolutely. That is the prime factor. If you remember, when I put climatic regions, I did mention about the fact all the top deserts are located towards the western margin, high pressure regions as such. Because of the high pressure, moisture is already low, and the impact of the trade winds, it decreases from the eastern margin to western margin. So they lose their moisture, and by the time they come toward the western part, they're absolutely dry. So most of the tropical deserts are located towards the western margins of these continents as such. And wherever you see more
intensity भी कम हो जाता है ना?
Exactly. Intensity इतना नहीं कम होता है, but the most important controlling factor is you lose moisture as a consequence. You don't have rain. Because you don't have rain, it gets dry. And say years and years of dryness will bring about a particular set of climatic conditions we eventually identify as dry deserts or hot deserts as such.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other individual has any other question? Please let me know. Otherwise, in some time from now, I will be posting this lecture. As you've seen last time onwards, I have started posting on YouTube, my YouTube channel. So you can watch it because it is going to be available there, and you can at any point of time access it at YouTube as such. So it is all for today. If you don't have any questions, I will be stopping.